Are they about to get another one?
That's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Mike, you know what?
Ay, gewalt.
Mike, I apologize.
Ay, gewalt.
Okay.
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 Azoi, we'll start off with a shtickle, a zinger epis. They say in the world that there are only two things that are certain, right? What are they? Death and taxes. Azoi, you can go now. No, it's death and taxes. But if you get yourself a good accountant, Azoi, maybe you can avoid taxes. Death is unavoidable. It's the one thing that we know. I probably could end there because I guess he's coming back. The Mashiach, all kinds of good things. But really, I guess it turns this week's Parsha, the first of this week's Parshas, Chukas, into something that is heavier than maybe it should be. We start off with something. Why is it called Chukas? Because of the ultimate chuk. Zot Chukat Torah. This is the most irrational law that we have in the book. It is the fact that we have paraduma. And I mean, if you think about it, it is truly bizarre. You start off with this idea that you have to find this red heifer. It's going to be 1 in a million or whatever it is, kind of a cow that you're going to be able to find with certain specifications. And then the kicker of the story is, for people that are impure from death, we take this cow, we do a certain process, purify, whatever, burn it, and so on, and we use the ashes to create something. But the person who does the act of purification becomes impure themselves. So we have this sort of paradox of what's happening here, the redundancy of what's going on, that when a person does the action of purification, they become impure themselves and they purify. So you have this almost this cycle, like, I don't know if anyone remembers the Sneetches on Leeches or something. There's a Dr. Seuss book. Anyway, I'll send that to you afterwards as required reading. But basically, this cycle of somebody becoming impure and then repurifying and so on, it feels like it's never ending. But why make the Parsha Chukas about this? The rest of the Parsha is why. Because the rest of the Parsha gives us an insight into a huge transition moment for Bnei Yisrael in the desert. We know that Bnei Yisrael has 3 leaders, Moshe, Miriam, and Aaron, and Bizchutam, they are each one of them gives a miracle of protection to the people in the desert. So Moshe was attributed to the man, Miriam was attributed to the well, and Aaron was attributed to the clouds. And Bizchutam, each one of these things comes and aids the Bnei Yisrael as they're traversing the desert. And this week's Parsha is full of challenges. They end up in a challenge with the Amori, the Ammonites, the Edomites, Amalek again. And through this little period of time, we have the death of Miriam and we have the death of Aaron. And I guess it's because of this challenge that the other things that happen. So Miriam dies. She's the first loss that we have in the Parsha. And we have the loss of water. And what happens after that? Moshe goes and he sins, he fails, and he hits the rock instead of speaking to it. God told him exactly what to do, and he fails in this moment. And it's quite obvious that the reason why he failed in this moment was in some way informed by the grief that he was experiencing. If you think about the relationship that Moshe has with Miriam, I can't call this like a sibling. It's something more. She, from the moment he was born, went to go fish him out from the reeds. She followed him down the stream. She gets him, reconnected with his mother to have a proper, to be weaned by a Jewish woman. It's like a closeness that you. I don't know what words to use to describe it. I mean, even thinking about what we were talking about just a moment ago, even in her moments of chastising, when she calls him out for what he could have done better, it still defines the closeness of a relationship. And it's that, in that context, that Moshe sins. And it's in that context, perhaps, that the chok, of the Parsha actually makes more sense in some way, because the hook is this works. That when I take the red heifer and I grind it up and I burn it and I turn it into ashes and I make water and I split it into three things and I anoint, I can purify somebody. But the hook, the irrational truth, the thing that is true in the world always, the hook of the Torah is that death is something that happens. It's something that it impacts people. When somebody passes something to the next person, they are impacted. When the next person is purified by the one before them, they're pure because of the people that went before them. And maybe the truth of the hook is not the fact that it works, but it is the way that it works, because that is the way of the world. So it felt to me like when we were thinking about this, and I saw many different sources that showed why the juxtaposition is because the hook of the Paraduma is to help us understand how to deal with death, and to show how Moshe's challenge of dealing with this death ultimately maybe led him to that sin of hitting the rock. Later, when you think about it, also the loss of Aaron is the loss of the clouds. And in a way, that also causes the loss of protection for Klal Yisrael in this time. We end up with another war with Amalek. We end up with other sins on those sort of fronts. And this challenge of the passing from one to the other, from the people who have the purifying, the path in life of the have the cow to pass on the purification from it. Maybe the metaphor of this is falling apart a little bit, but there's something in the hook of the Paraduma that allows us to see how continuity and that truth in the world continues. And maybe just a few little things here that we'll end with on the end of the Parsha, and then on Balak. There's a story with a copper snake. So the Bnei Yisrael are sinning, and just I like a little wordplay. So it says Nachash and Achoshet, Moshe had to make this. And in some way, maybe the double lashon of something that would have been bad, a snake would have been bad, was something that ended up saving the people from this plague of dying. Now, if we think about these two parshiot, I did not have a lot of time to prepare the Balak side. I thought it was a one-time parsha this week, but we'll do a quick aside on it. Chukat is this story of truth. It's a story of like an understanding of passing from generation to generation, of continuity, of transition and growth, all those kinds of things. Balak ends up being the perspective of somebody from the outside. So whenever you're going to go do something, you have your challenge of finding your own internal motivation. Balak is flipping the entire thing onto what you see from the outside. And there's some interesting things maybe to take from the story of Balak. Balak is really the story of Bilam. It's called Balak. So what's the challenge? Bilam was a character that was created as the yin to the yang of Moshe. At this time, Moshe is considered to be the ultimate prophet. Bilam was created in a way to give the ultimate prophecy to the rest of the nations. Anybody who wanted to access God in that way could have. So what you see is that when you have ultimate power without direction, that becomes a challenge. When you think of yourself, I'm a neurotic yid, I think that I have, a calling. God tells me how to do stuff. In the context of the covenant with Hashem, I have something that I can do. But Bilam didn't have that covenant, and he was misdirected for $1. So, he got bribed to go and do curses. But you see that in actuality, he wasn't really able to accomplish those curses. And I'll be selfish just for a second. There's a beautiful pasuk here, Ma tovu ahalecha Yaakov mishkanosecha Yisrael, that I say at the end of Shmona Esrei every day. It's the passage from Michael. Your name begins with a mem and ends with a lamed. And there's something about this pasuk when he says Ohalecha and Mishkanotecha. The challenge I think that Bilam is helping us identify, illuminating for us, is the idea that we both have our own personal space that we live in, the OL that we are creating for ourselves, whether it's the small individual or the familial, or even maybe the idea of like, this is verging on the idea of the shul, or that you have the Mishkan, which is the more communal space where you get seen by people. And maybe that's the challenge that we talk about a little bit more in Balak, is the fact that you go out in the world, you're trying to do your thing, but you need to be seen, you need to be identified in the world, and part of the challenge is to be seen in doing what you're doing. And maybe just an idea that's very interesting. We were talking last week in Parshat Korach about the things that were created at the eve of the first Shabbat in creation, and we had Pi Haaretz. And this week we have two more of those P's. We have Pi HaBe'er, which is the well of Miriam, and we have Pi Ha'aton, which is the mouth of the donkey. I don't know when the rest of the other things that are created show up in Tanakh, but I did just sort of find it interesting that once we hit three within, basically three parshiot of the things that were created, maybe we're in some kind of special time. I know that there was recently a story, I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm happy to believe it, that they found a paraduma in Israel, and hopefully this is a sign that maybe we're on the path to an ace of Mashiach, and to reach that final Shabbat of rest that we're looking forward to.